I think that you're special in many ways, and especially the extreme end that you went to, 400 plus pounds. That is unique. But that you came back from that is really remarkable, because there are a lot of 200-pound people that are grossly overweight that do not love themselves and therefore are self-sabotaging with their sleep and their food and their exercise or lack thereof, and stashing food and drinking and all the things that are so destructive to their health. And it all comes from the fact that they just haven't gotten to a state where they appreciate themselves enough to take care of their bodies, right?
And it's tough to breathe. And like I said, I stayed active.
Is it scary?
Yeah.
Tough to breathe?
I would be doing this all the time. Check my pulse. All right. You have that anxiety, feeling around. Things feel weird. My liver enzymes were high. Things like that, right? My bilirubin was off the charts. And I was drinking. Blood sugar was all over the place. I was worried about diabetes. I'd get checked, and it was really difficult.
I'm Todd Vande, CEO of Stark, and I've gone from vegan to paleo to keto to carnivore, from cryosaunas to ice baths to training like an athlete to being injured like one, and enhancing my mobility and optimizing my sex hormones with thousands of labs and various forms of scans. I'm surrounded by high-level medical doctors, naturopathic doctors, chiropractors, nutritionists, and strength coaches, all leading me in concert to a state of optimal health. And I'm here to share that with you, regardless of your age, your genes, or your medical conditions. I'm really excited about today's guest. His name is John Taylor, goes by JT. A fixture in the entertainment industry and a senior leader at United Talent Agency, one of the world's premier talent and literary agencies, with a career spanning decades in Hollywood, which is certainly not easy to do. John has built a reputation for discovering and representing some of the most influential names in film, television, music, and digital media. John's role at UTA places him at the intersection of art, commerce, and culture, where he navigates high-stakes negotiations, which I can see how he's amazing at, cultivates groundbreaking partnerships, and helps shape the careers of iconic creatives. But behind the scenes, John is also a dedicated advocate for personal well-being and a student of optimal health. Over the years, he's been on a quiet yet very powerful health journey, exploring what it takes to thrive while operating in one of the most fast-paced, highest-pressure industries in the world. From improving sleep and fitness to managing stress and aging with intention, John has become an example of how high performers can stay at the top of their game without burning out. Today, we'll dive into how he balances it all and what he's learned from both the entertainment world and his own wellness path, and what it really means to stay resilient in a culture of constant hustle. So you spent your entire career in entertainment, or most of it, right?
Yeah, all of it.
All of it?
Yeah, all of it.
Wow. How has it shaped your perspective on stress and health and longevity? Is it sort of like the antithesis of it, right?
Yeah. So how did it shape longevity and health and fitness, the entertainment industry? The first places I ever performed were bars and like nightclubs. And so you're immediately immersed into this culture of, indulgence and leisure. And I'm from central Pennsylvania, so it was chicken wings and beer and, drunk people, and that environment's around you, and it's late nights. And it's a grind. And then as I got into the business in a more formal capacity and came to LA, the expectations for whatever reason in this business have been set that it's a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week job. And, you always have to be available. And there's someone in the shadows willing to do what you're not willing to do. And there are no days off.
So competitive, right?
Very, very competitive. And I think psychologically, which I think is kind of silly, I got into the entertainment industry because I loved music and I was a musician and I loved to play. The adjacency to fame carries a lot of weight. People love to be able to go home at Thanksgiving and say, "Oh, I work with this famous person," and it feels cool.
Yeah.
And so there's like an equity in that people don't want to leave behind. I think people change jobs far more
emotionally.
Yeah, people change jobs far more frequently in the normal corporate world to be like, "Oh, well, this isn't working out for me. I'm going to try my hand at something else." But people don't want to leave the sexiness behind. And so I think there's a pressure. It's like, well, you're so lucky. Which I am. I'm very grateful. It's a great business to be in, and it's fun and it's exciting, but it's full on for sure. And you have to understand and learn boundaries and the ability to say no when it's really appropriate to say no, or you will burn out and you won't make it. This is my 20th year in LA, and my 22nd year formally in like, the actual industry and working with major record labels and touring acts. And
you mind me asking how old you are?
I'm 43 years old.
Okay. So your entire adult career. Yeah.
My entire adult career. Started as a musician, transferred into management, and now I'm an agent today. So I'm kind of making a loop.
And how many of those 20 plus years were in management?
I was a manager for almost 8 years.
Okay.
I was on tour for the better part of 12 or 13 years.
Oh, wow.
Traveling all the time.
Okay. And so what did your health journey look like when you first came to LA 2 decades ago? What was it like? Who were you?
So I've had a real struggle with my relationship with food and with my body and with other things. I'm a long-term sober guy.
Okay.
So I'm 14 years of continuous sobriety from drugs and alcohol. But, there's the idea of being clean and the idea of being sober, right? And I kind of separate both of those things. I was clean, but mentally, spiritually, physically, I wasn't totally sober. I was using food as kind of another outlet.
Oh, you mean you stopped drinking?
I stopped drinking. I stopped using drugs.
What kind of drugs? Do you mind me?
I mean, I was a big pothead. I smoked a lot of weed from when I was 15 years old, every single day onward. But I dabbled in party drugs and got into the other stuff. Alcohol was my drug of choice. If you really, I was a blackout drinker with no control.
Wow.
It was all or nothing. I ate like that as well. I worked like that as well. And so it's interesting. When I first moved to LA, I actually moved into a house with a guy who was an all-American decathlete from Penn State University. He was a friend of mine from home. And he actually whipped me into shape over 2 months. And that was the course of how I did wellness fitness. Every once in a while,
how long ago was
I'd go gangbusters. That was 2005.
2005.
Yeah, and I got in shape.
20 years ago.
20 years ago. I got in shape. So I was on, trying to lose some weight, but I was always a heavy guy.
And you were still drinking at that stage?
Yes.
Okay.
On and off, trying to be sober.
So you're drinking, heavy, eating a lot.
Eating a lot.
Okay, and training and working out.
And then those 2 months, I kind of cleaned it up. I was eating what he told me to eat, and I was working out the way he told me to work out. We were going to 24-hour fitness, and he whipped me into shape.
And you were in your early 20s?
Early 20s.
Okay.
I lost a lot of weight quickly, but then I got on the road, and I would gain it back. There was a lot of yo-yo, but I mean, I was a big guy. I was 185 pounds in 5th grade.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, big kid. And that would yo-yo as well. I was always really active. I was a ski racer growing up. When I was 12 years old, I tore my ACL in my left leg ski racing.
12?
12.
Jeez.
And I couldn't get the surgery right away because my growth plates weren't done. So I was in an immobilizer. I started high school using a cane and then rehabbed the knee enough that I tried to play football, and then it hurt it again. And, I would try to participate in sports, but that's when I really got into music. I was kind of sitting on my butt a lot, and my mom was like, you can't just play video games, and so I picked up a guitar, and I had a natural inclination to that, and that worked out. But food was really tough, and when I got into smoking weed, food got even tougher, and the cravings were big. When I look back at it, I almost say like I ate to die or something. It was almost like self-punishment.
Ate to die?
I hid things from people. I ate like an addict would eat.
Oh, wow.
Right?
You get things stashed places?
Yeah, and I would, stop at McDonald's on my way to the steakhouse and eat before I went to dinner. It'd be dinner before dinner, and it would be candy at night by myself, and just try to, walk into the kitchen and make sure nobody saw me and just hammer things.
Just sort of self-medicating?
Yeah, and I think, this is a controversial take, but it's my opinion, and my opinion's my opinion. But I think pretty much anybody who's up over 300, 350, 400 pounds, unless they're 6'10", and in shape, probably struggles with some semblance of what they call process addiction. Like, you're mostly sugar, right?
Process addiction.
Process
you mean like
addiction.
driving to the McDonald's drive-thru?
So process addiction is a separate term from, your conventional drug, alcohol addictions. They would put sex, kind of gambling, but maybe debt, like bad finances. People who just can't help but spend all the money that they have. Sex, food, these things that you can't completely abstain from. So with drugs and alcohol, you can just say, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to work a program and figure out a way
to right? The division's clear.
There's a line. You have to eat.
Yeah.
And so, the programs around that in the sobriety way of things is they're a little different. You have like a circle plan, and it's like, these are the things I don't do. And these are the things that if I'm doing them too often, I have to check myself. And these are the things that are safe. Whereas like, when you're sober from drugs and alcohol, you don't use drugs and you don't drink alcohol, right? Not at the wedding only, like no exceptions. That's a real line.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of my problem with food was derived from that the ism, I call it, in my mind, right? I just couldn't really help myself. It was a place to self-medicate. It was a place to self-soothe. I found comfort in it, made me feel safe. And I would keep that from people. I didn't want, even though I was this big guy, and I wasn't really ashamed of that necessarily. Like, I would take my shirt off at the beach. I was just like a, loud and proud big boy. And I used comedy to deter the haters. And I go, move over, fat guy coming in. You tell the first joke and then they can't make fun of you. You take the air out of the room. But
I'm a pro at short king jokes.
yeah. Exactly.
Same deal.
You just kind of think lingering in the back of your mind. You're like,
first swing.
What are they thinking about?
Yeah.
I'm just going to take that air out of the room. Yeah. And I'm on a rant right now, but it was like that on and off like my whole life. I would try to get healthy, have friends try to encourage me. And friend Kirk in high school, we'd go running in the woods, and he was really active. He's a PE teacher to this day, very active guy, volleyball coach. He'd be like, "Come on, JT, we'll go out in the woods and we're going to get healthy this summer. Like, we're going to eat clean." And I tried a vegan diet, and I tried the keto diet, and I tried, cut all, it was all extremes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm only eating this now. There's no wiggle room. I'm not having a piece of cake on my birthday. I'm not, I'm no sugar whatsoever, no carbs whatsoever. So I yo-yoed a lot. But when I first arrived in LA and had my first gig, I had 2 months to kind of prepare before I went out on the road. And this guy whipped me into shape, and that lasted for a bit. If you were to scroll through my photo gallery, you'd say, "Oh, JT looks pretty good in 2005. 2006, By 2008, whoa, right?"
So you'd come all the way back to where
come all the way back.
2006?
Yeah. So on
2008?
2008, I was getting bigger, and then it really kind of crossed the Rubicon, 09, 2010, 2011. I was just really big.
How big?
So I got up above 400 pounds.
400
pounds. Yeah. And that was,
can you kind of describe what that feels like to be in that body?
You feel sick and you feel tired.
Like sick, like nauseous, or
you're just never really comfortable, and it's tough to breathe. And like I said, I stayed active.
Is it scary?
Yeah.
Tough to breathe?
I would be doing this all the time. Check my pulse. All right. You have that anxiety,
Wow.
feeling around. Things feel weird. My liver enzymes were high. Things like that, right? My bilirubin was off the charts. And I was drinking. Blood sugar was all over the place. I was worried about diabetes. I'd get checked, and it was really difficult. And I was on the road. I was on stage every night. I was on an airplane every other day. I was sleeping on a tour bus and a tour bunk. I'm this big guy. Everything feels impossible. Sweat a lot. Changing my clothes a lot, really uncomfortable, don't sleep well, sleep apnea, waking up in the middle of the night. And then, you have this feeling of like perpetual fullness too. You're constantly I was gorging myself, just eating and eating and eating. Right?
Oh, you feel full because you're actually
just full.
But
just
you don't stop eating.
Just don't stop eating. You push yourself. Fortunately, other than the disordered eating of extreme overeating, I didn't have anorexia issues or bulimia issues, which many addicts do. That's a thing that kind of falls into the same category.
Yeah.
But I would eat sometimes to the point where I would throw up, not intentionally, but I would that's what would happen. I remember leaving Mastro's Steakhouse one night and having to pull over because I was like, I just can't even drive the car, right? And
because you had eaten
and
much?
and I carried all my weight was this belly fat, which is the most dangerous place to carry it. I was like an extremely pear-shaped guy, a very robust pear, and it all just kind of hung here. My face looks a lot different, but I wasn't, really face heavy. I didn't carry it there that much. You would still recognize me, right? But I just had this really big belly and big legs. I've always kind of had tree trunk legs. But yeah, it was tough. I overate to an extreme amount. And at a certain point, you get to a place where you're like, what? This is irreversible. I'm just so tired. Any workout feels extreme. You get more and more sedentary. As much as I wanted to stay active, as much as I would be the guy that you would comment on at Runyon Canyon, be like, how's that guy even doing this? I'd be pouring sweat trying to keep up with my friends because they'd be like, let's go for a hike, and trudge my way up and huff and puff and huff and puff. And, and I still had knee issues.
I can imagine. And carrying around that kind of weight.
Yeah. And carrying that weight around, the knee would hurt really bad. And my joints would hurt really badly. My hips would hurt really badly. By 2011, I'll just jump forward. I'm giving you a long history here, and I know we'll edit things down, but 2011, my drinking had come to a head, and I had gone to rehab 8 years previous, and I just couldn't figure it out. I never really surrendered myself to the program, to the spiritual aspect of it, to the community aspect of it.
Yeah.
And I just tried to do it on my own, and I hid things, and I was still like, my comfort blankets were my comfort blankets. And I wasn't out there partying in the world, having a great time. I was drinking by myself and eating at home and ordering food and going to fast food restaurants and drinking and eating and drinking and eating. And I threw in the towel in 2011. A series of events happened that got me sober. And concurrently, while I was doing that, I went and saw a pretty revered endocrinologist named Calvin Ezrin, who, ironically, his son's in the music business, and his son signed Alice Cooper and is a big music producer, a really successful guy. Calvin Ezrin studied at the University of Toronto under the doctors who found insulin. So he was a really insulin-focused guy. And what he told me after taking a really robust blood test of mine was like, well, the good news, you really don't have a predisposition for diabetes. He's like,
is there such a thing? I've never heard of a predisposition.
Yeah, I was surprised by that too. He said, I can just tell. Some of it might be controversial, whatever. He's like, certain people with certain blood markers, are more prone to getting type 2 diabetes than other people, and they know that across genetic makeup and all this stuff. But he was like, you would have probably had it by now. And he's like, and your blood sugar, while it fluctuates, is coming in at 110 right now, and you told me you ate this morning and you're very, very heavy. And he put me on a keto diet. He was kind of like the anti-Atkins. It wasn't super high fat. It was more lean protein based. But in the controversial side of the thing that he did was he put me on a low dose that I could ramp up basically on my own of trazodone. Trazodone, and his theory on this, because you can't actually study this until you have a cadaver, but his theory was that the deeper sleep from the trazodone allows your body to produce more serotonin, which gets you through that afternoon craving. So cultures all over the world have high tea in the afternoon. People have a cake or a cookie or coffee and a cookie and a sweet treat about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. He said the reason you do that is you're running out of your serotonin supply about 3 o'clock, 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And when your serotonin dips, your urge for sugar and dopamine and that hit from food goes way up. And I find this, and he's like, and I found that putting people on a low dose of trazodone will allow them to stay the course on the keto diet. And it worked. It worked.
So how long did you do the keto diet?
About 10 months to a blistering extreme.
Are you talking like a true keto diet where it's 60% fat?
No, see, that was the thing. It wasn't 60% fat. That was the thing. I peed on the sticks, and it was more lean protein based. It was probably 40% fat. It was, but I was having I was having less than 18 grams of carbs a day total.
Okay.
And on a lot of days I was having
nothing.
No grams of carbs, right?
That's nothing.
Nothing. I started doing a ton of cardio. That's what I thought. I thought sweating was the key to metabolic return.
At that stage, really anything is.
Yeah. And I first started by walking, and then I was doing some hot yoga. I was always a flexible guy, surprisingly enough. I had good flexibility and mobility. And then I was riding a skateboard. I was living in Venice Beach. I was riding a skateboard. I was riding a bike. And then I started running, and got to the point where I was running like 10 miles a day, 4 or 5 days a week. And on the weekends, I would run from Venice to Temescal Canyon and back, which is like 15 miles, more than a half marathon.
What was the state of your body comp at this point?
So it was just I was melting like a stick of butter. Right? And so from 2011 to 2012, in that like 10, 11 month period, I lost nearly 250 pounds. Right? Went all the way down. I was in like 165, 170. I wasn't super strong. I was doing Beachbody, the insanity workout. I didn't do P90X. I wasn't super strong, but I was lean, and I could run, and I felt good. And my brain felt good on ketosis, and I felt sharp, and I was...
Yeah, I don't know how you functioned back in your previous self. Was that just a struggle? I mean...
Everything.
You're so inflamed. Your brain just doesn't work.
Brain fog.
Your outlook is dim.
All right. Everything was dark.
How did you even get to the point where you'd take action?
So part of it was AA and that community. And the accountability aspect, and like starting to people really encouraging me to be honest with me. And it's like, one thing if you lie to me, but if you lie to yourself, like you got to look in the mirror and be able to tell yourself the truth, and like give yourself some self-forgiveness, which is interesting because that like knockdown, drag out keto war, I wasn't really self-forgiveness. It was all or nothing. If I slip up today, the punishment I would put on myself would be crazy. So I just didn't until I did. And so we were having a bonfire.
So the all or nothing issue or way of thinking is hugely problematic.
Hugely for me, for a person like me.
Most...
And I think it is for most people, going back to my original controversial point, most people who get themselves into a body state of 350, 400 pounds, I think it's hugely problem. You see, those are the yo-yo dieters. I lost 100, I gained 100. I lost 50, I gained 50.
Dang,
because
brutal.
It's this all or nothing thing. Well, you know, and you'll see they're the ones who are like, well, I'm going vegan. I'm going to a fat camp for 3 months, fully immersive experience, which some people might need to do. I've done it. Some people might need to do that. You might need that knowledge and that reset, just like someone going to rehab.
Yeah.
I encourage it if you can afford it and you can take the time to really just focus on your wellness for 60, 90 days, like great, right? Mm-hmm. But if you apply this principle of, if I falter, I failed, you will fail and you will falter and it will compound. And the story I like to tell is it happened just random. It happened one night. I'm in the middle of this thing. I look good. I feel good. I'm running every day. I'm very, very active. My work is good. My brain is sharp. I feel really good. I've got new clothes. I'm living at the beach, you know, hanging with girls, all this stuff. We had a bonfire at the house one night. We were making s'mores. And for some reason, I walked into the kitchen and I ate 2 pieces of Hershey's chocolate. And I went to the bathroom and I came back and I ate 2 more pieces of Hershey's chocolate. And the next thing you know, I had eaten 7 Hershey bars. And I had taken the wrappers and I'd put them in the bottom of the trash can, and I was straight back to ground zero, hiding my food. What? And my buddy came in from outside. He's like, "Oh, what happened to the chocolate?" I'm like, "Yeah, I don't know, man. I was just looking. You guys are still making the s'mores, right?" And I was like, "Obviously, I'm not having chocolate." Just lied to him, lied to myself. Next day I wake up. I think it's healthy. I go get an acai bowl. I put honey and peanut butter all, boom, 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 off to the races. Wow. A few weeks later, I break my foot. In a freak just jumping out of the bed of a pickup truck. I get married.
Happens all the time.
I move to another neighborhood in LA. I kind of fall out of touch with my AA group. And so from 2012 to 2017, I put it all back on and then some. I was 450 pounds in 2012
to what?
To 2017. I just slow and steady just packed it all back on until I was 450 pounds in 2017.
So as you look back, you can see all the mistakes that you made. What could you have done differently to help course correct that? The community
is super important, but it's a web of things. But for me, it really comes down to the self-love, self-forgiveness thing. You like progress, not perfection.
Okay. Is that the underlying issue?
That's the underlying issue. It's like the all or nothing. Oh, I failed. Okay, well, I tried and I didn't. So throw in the towel, right? It'd be like, the equivalent would be like somebody gets a project at work and it doesn't come out the way they want it to come out and they just quit the job and walk away, right? It's like, that's not reasonable thinking. It's like, oh, okay, well, you know, we didn't hit our KPIs. What are the lessons learned and how do we hit them on the next project? Mm-hmm. No, it's, oh, I failed. And so now I'm just going to go self-destruct. Mm-hmm. And so that self-love is
center of all this really, you need to find a way to love yourself.
Yeah.
Unconditionally.
Like
despite
which I still work
like
on.
Everyone has, right?
Still work on every day.
Still work on every day.
Every day.
I think most of us have some issues with that.
Yeah.
But that is kind of the center of it. Also, if you don't have that in place, it disables you from being able to love others. I think because it's the same.
100%. You're disconnected. And you really just disconnect. And people call it, spiritual people refer to it in spiritual terms, and program people refer to it in program terms, and psychologists refer to it in psychology terms. But it's really like the community, you know, connection is the opposite of addiction, right? Like the more you are, the more you are connected with other people and involved in a community with some accountability and the ability to give back, you know, like you give and you take and you receive. And by helping another person, you're helping yourself. And by allowing them to help you and not being defiant, like, I've got it, I'm good. Like, it creates a warmer, safer, more comfortable place to be where you have less of a need. I'm saying you, but me, where I have less of a need to feel like I need these things outside of me to make me feel whole. And it's like finding ways to do that. And it applies in my training principles today. And the way that I'm very mindful in how I eat. A lot of the guidance from Stark has helped me so much over the years in that. And like, hey, have you thought about this? But it's not a heavy-handed, it's this, do this or don't do that. Yeah. You guys haven't said, order your macro plate and have it be this, right? You said, this is what we suggest. This is what we find works. Here's some real data and science about the things that make you feel inflamed and that you may be slightly allergic to or that your body doesn't respond well to. That was super helpful to me. Oh, I do eat that a lot. And I do notice that after I eat that, I don't feel great. And it came down to more for me, like a check-in with myself. I just ate a meal. How do I feel? Do I feel energized? And I find that if I eat a meal and I feel tired afterwards, something's wrong.
Something's wrong.
And that used to be the status quo. Eat. Oh, I don't want to go take a nap. Oh, I'm so full. I'm fat and happy, right? I'm fat and happy. I want to go lay down on the couch. It's like that Thanksgiving tryptophan effect or whatever. That was every meal for me. And now it's like I want to eat and be like, okay, great. Had that. I feel like the afternoon's in front of me and I'm ready to go. I needed some food. I needed some fuel. And it's in me now, and I feel extra energy. But the food is doing its job inside my body. So it was less of, and I use the tools and I track things, not super aggressively. Probably would be better if I did, right? Like from a data standpoint, if I,
not
if
perfection.
I did, exactly. But it's really for me, it's that check-in. Like, do I feel good?
Mm-hmm.
That tasted pretty good. That was a nice, well-rounded meal. Do I feel good after I eat it? Do I feel stronger when I train the next day? Or did I fuel up before my early morning workout appropriately? I can tell if I didn't eat enough before I come in, or if I come in and try to do something on a fasted day and I'm like, oh, I just can't get to that 12th rep. I'm failing at 11 today. Like, oh, I'm out of gas. Because where I sit now from a body comp perspective, there's not a lot of reserves. I'm a 10% body fat guy. Like, I don't have that extra thing that can
actual 10%.
Yeah.
On
your DEXA scan, yes.
Yeah, so it's
not on my Withings scale at home tells me I'm like 3.8 or something. I'm like, when's it gonna dip into the negative? But
that's a serious accomplishment.
Yeah,
within the guidelines that we have at Stark, that is a young athlete. It's I think it's something between 8 and 13% is the range for a young athlete. So
amazing,
congratulations there.
Thank you. And this is a big difference in my life now too, is where I'm proud of myself.
That's great.
And I can say that to you, like, I worked hard. It feels like a more extreme story than it is, though, because when you really break it down, I showed up consistently over the course of years, and I made smarter choices over the course of years, one day at a time.
Let's go back to 2017.
Okay.
So was that a pivotal moment?
Yeah, I mean, I had honestly been like confronted by a couple of people who knew loved me.
You swung into 2017 after several years of rebuilding your essentially state of obesity.
Yes.
And then tell me what happened.
So I was in New York at like a after party situation, sitting in the corner doing this thing.
Oh, you were having like one of those episodes?
Just being like, I'd just eaten like a giant plate of mozzarella sticks and chicken wings or something. I think I was drinking a Coca-Cola and I was like, am I all right? And I was checking my pulse and I just didn't feel great. I didn't feel good. I felt terrible. And I was worried, and I was huffing and puffing, and I was buying clothes at Rochester Big and Tall, and I was bigger and more uncomfortable than I'd ever been. My sex life with my wife at the time was terrible because of me. I had zero libido. I had zero motivation. It was work. It was fight or flight. My body felt like it was in fight or flight. It was like survival mode. And I got confronted by a couple of people who really loved me, including my wife at the time. And they were like, what are you going to do about this? And a guy that I knew, this is an extreme measure, but sometimes you have to take extreme measures, but a guy that I knew had just gotten a gastric sleeve and he had had success with it. And now today, and I know it's controversial and use them for a moment and then get off of them. Now there's GLP drugs. And so I would say, and I'm not a doctor, but if that were available at the time, I probably would have done that as opposed to have gone under the knife, gone under anesthesia. But so I got this gastric sleeve surgery, and I say only because it's a large amount of weight, but I only lost about 75 pounds from that. And I plateaued in the high 300s. I plateaued, and I went to the doctor and was like, everything was going great. And he's like, you got to get active, man. Like, and you're going to have to adjust things, and you're probably not even eating enough. Like, you're now at the point where like your metabolism's slowing down, because I was trying to just be like, hey, my stomach's small, I'm not really hungry. I would go like a whole day and, have like 400, 500 calories because I wasn't thinking about it. Not restricting myself, not mindfully being like, I'm not going to eat. Just, you feel really full. They cut out the part of the stomach that produces ghrelin. There's all this hormones that change, and the gut is kind of everything with the mind. And fortunately, I got active again. I went back to some of the things that I knew, the hot yoga, the stretching, the walking. I didn't go back into running because at this point my knee just couldn't run. Still to this day, I really can't run. If I go and try, and I did a 5K in Australia to raise money for Parkinson's, and I felt it for a week after.
Oh, was that the one in Florida, maybe? Or
so I
think I saw a video.
It was on Instagram. I was in Australia. My mom's in Florida, and so and I did that, but I felt it for like a week afterwards. Wow. Just my knee. I got a Baker's cyst.
I can imagine those joints that were supporting.
Tough, really tough. And I broke the left foot.
Times of you currently?
Yeah, unbelievable. And I broke the left foot as well, and so. it just throws the left side of your body off. And I've learned through mobility and soft tissue and electrotherapy here that like it's a little off. And I had a physical therapist at one point refer to the left side of my body as a haunted house. He's like, you just never know what you're going to get over here, man. Like your ribs are out, and your chiropractor, your ribs are out, your hips out, and your shoulders out. Everything on the left side's just a little wonky, right? And so, but I got into that. And then I eventually got into some weight training and went through a lot in my life during this process. I got divorced from my wife. I lost my father to ALS. My mother had Parkinson's. I was living in Florida for a year, but I had some time. Mm-hmm. And I really focused this time, how am I going to do this differently? And it was all about that self-forgiveness and the one day at a time. And it was like, oh, today I ate a hamburger with the bun. That's okay. Not every day, not 3 of them at a time, but like, that's
Were you
okay.
also doing things like, did you have a therapist? Did you ever do anything like psychedelic assisted therapy? Did you ever try anything that maybe would help speed that up? Or was it...
I have a therapist. I have a therapist, and the AA group. Prior to getting sober, I tried my own versions of psychedelic therapy, but I really did. I tried them in earnest to try to rewire the brain and that stuff, and I didn't have success with that. And I think it's a gray area for addicts. Mm-hmm. And I do find that there's a lot of people who can get snapped out of a state of depression and be like, well, I did one and done. I went and did a ketamine drip, and I'm not a doctor. I'm not one to say whether it's good or not. It's just not. It's not for me. That's a no.
Some addicts end up going down that.
Yeah, it's a no-fly zone for me because it'll.
Makes sense.
Because I had done that recreationally as well. So I've had that experience, but I steer clear from it.
So it sounds like it took you, all of this time went by in order to get to a point where you recognized that the central issue was that you didn't love yourself.
Yes.
You weren't good enough or something.
All of that.
Does that sound about right?
Yeah. Holding myself to like an impossible standard.
And then when you recognize that standard, what did you do to, I don't know, get your arms around it or give yourself enough elbow room to recognize that you're not perfect and it's okay? I
started to try to put in like daily reprieves. So get into a bit of a routine around prioritizing that side of my mind and rewire my neural pathways and try to like make my brain be more accompanied to that kind of life, right? And so whether that was meditation or journaling or making sure I picked up the phone and called 3 other alcoholic guys every day and just had a check-in. Just, hey, how you doing? Like these actions that seem easy but are on a day-to-day basis are hard. It can be hard to pick up the phone and be vulnerable with the person and be like, sometimes it's like they tell you to call the new guys. And you don't even know this guy, but you get his number in a meeting and you just call and say, hey, Steve, I met you at the meeting. Like, just wanted to check in on you, man. You doing okay? And that action, with repetition brings you to a different place. So I did that. And I did that with exercise, and I did it with food, and I did it with my water intake and with my steps, and be like, okay, I don't have to walk 10,000 steps tomorrow. I'm going to try to. I'm going to do my best. Like the 4 Agreement says, I don't have to weight train 5 days a week, 4 days a week, but I'm going to try to get into the gym and move my body around. If I'm not really feeling it one day, maybe I'm just going to hang on the pull-up bar, do a couple leg extensions, walk around with a kettlebell and go home. I went, I showed up, I did my best that day. And where it's like, oh, I didn't, missed the day. Oh no, oh, I didn't journal today. I'm going to journal tomorrow. And then maybe I journal at night. I missed my journal today, and I really felt that. How was my day? Reflect on my day. Where did it go wrong today? Well, I didn't do the things I said I was going to do, and I didn't really show up for myself today. So tomorrow's a new day. I'm going to wake up, and I'm going to address that tomorrow. And it's these little rearrangements and these little wins, but getting into a sense of routine, which is hard to do going back to the very beginning. In a touring entertainment world where you're in a different city every day and sometimes meeting 100 or 200 or 300 brand new people everywhere you go, right? You're waking up in a different bed, you're on a different airplane, you're in a different city, you're different languages, eating different food. Hard to like get your stuff and have your stuff in line. And so I really had to like learn how to have a little bit of repetition and routine in my life. And I did that slowly but surely with a lot of forgiveness and grace to myself, and not like, I went out with the guys after the AA meeting in Florida, and we went to the brew house, and I actually ate 2 mozzarella sticks. In the past, that would have thrown me off kilter. It's like, I ate 2 mozzarella sticks. Like, not a great choice, but also like not going to kill me. Right? And it's like,
absolutely not.
There's like some oil in there, and it's a deep fried thing, and now yada, yada, yada. And, and then I would also like, if I went harder than that and I ate 5, or I'd probably wake up in the morning like, I don't really feel great. That was a
Mhm.
bad choice.
Mhm.
And that was the consequence of my action, not instant death and not a fall off the wagon and go run to drink milkshakes,
Yeah.
but just, I don't feel that great. That
Not the
wasn't,
deep
I
disappointment.
would have felt, I would have felt better if I got the filet and whatever,
Mm.
right? And then that kind of was like, oh, I do actually feel after I eat, and my body responds. And I don't think I was aware of that for a really long time, other than I just felt bad, right? But I didn't know that food could make you feel nourished, and food could make you feel energized, and food could fuel you. Like, that was something I hadn't really learned until I was 40 years old,
Mhm.
you know? And then weight training.
Mhm.
And that changed the game. And I was unaware of that. I think a lot of people are uneducated on, like,
Yeah.
women think they're going to get bulky, and people avoid this for whatever reason. Oh, I just like cardio, or, I feel like if I go into a weight training circuit, I don't really get a good sweat. Like, I really want to sweat. And I appreciate that and whatever, but I can tell anybody watching at home, as a guy who used to weigh 450 pounds, that I don't even know what body fat I was, mostly fat,
Mhm.
to being a guy that's 10%. The game changer for me was putting on lean mass, which changed my resting metabolic rate,
Mhm.
which had me constantly in a state of burning calories
Yeah.
and taking the fuel and utilizing the fuel and not storing the fuel. And that was the game changer. And my body changed, and my mind changed, and the way I felt changed, and my VO2 max changed, and my resting heart rate changed, and my HRV changed, and
Yeah, of course.
drastically
I
with
think,
weight
I think
training.
the beginnings of all the changes, though, occurred when you forgave yourself and you started to
Yes.
appreciate who you are.
I couldn't have gotten into.
Because getting to weight training was that was the result of thinking that you can actually get something from weight training, and that you're valuable enough or important enough, or you're loved enough to put that effort into it. So this is a really interesting conversation, because I think that you're special in many ways, and especially the extreme end that you went to, 400 plus pounds. That is unique. But that you came back from that is really remarkable, because there are a lot of 200-pound people that are grossly overweight that do not love themselves, and therefore are self-sabotaging with their sleep and their food and their exercise or lack thereof, and stashing food and drinking and all the things that are so destructive to their health. And it all comes from the fact that they just haven't gotten to a state where they appreciate themselves enough to take care of their bodies.
Yeah.
Right.
You get into a state of shame,
Mhm.
right? With the hiding and the stashing, like you're saying.
Yeah.
Some people become ashamed of, like, who they are and how they look and how they feel, and they allow societal pressures to get in there. Someone once said to me, the difference between guilt and shame is, like, guilt is I stole something. Shame is I'm a thief. Right? The definition of yourself. And I think people go from being like, I'm having this guilty pleasure. I'm eating a peanut butter cup, or I'm having an ice cream cone on a Thursday night while I'm on vacation, because why the hell not? Right? To being like, I'm a fat person. Or I'm just a slob, and I can't get beyond this. Like I said, at a certain point, I had that despair where it's like, this is irreversible. Like, how am I supposed? I'm so big, and I can't seem to stop, and I just feel helpless, right? And that's that shame, and just this self-definition of, like, well, this is what I am.
I mean,
I'm throwing in the towel.
We are what we decide we are.
Yeah,
basically, it's the
belief
lays out the future, and today or tomorrow morning, anyone listening to this can just determine that is not who they are, that they are something different, and they just haven't gotten there yet. And that informs all the different decisions that spring from that moment, but that they have to have that moment, like the moment that you had. Okay, so we got our arms around you when you were down the road, you've lost a lot of weight, you weren't fully optimized, you had some orthopedic problems. Can you kind of talk about, like, what the last couple of years has looked like for you?
It's been unbelievable.
Because now you're in this stage of refining your optimization.
Yeah.
The little tiny course corrections, maybe a little bit of an orthopedic issue. Your body composition's amazing. Maybe you just want to, for the fun of it, put a little muscle, maybe on your glutes. I don't know. Not like a necessary thing at this stage, which is really where people, I think, ultimately want to be. Are there any other things that you're working on?
It's a fun stage to be in, because this is a place where I can tweak. First off, this place, I mean, let's go all the way back. I came in here, I think my first X, I was, like you said, I was down the road, but I think I was 15 or 16% body fat. I wasn't super strong yet. I had started weight training while I was in Florida and working with the trainer, who was a pretty traditional kind of like buff guy
bodybuilding
trainer.
kind of
Yeah,
training.
right. And even just in this conversation with you, Todd, for you to be like, yeah, well, the weight training's cool, but the self-love and the stuff. The podcast is called Health is a Skill, and I think the skill is it's all encompassing.
Yeah.
We're in
It's
this
all
body, we're in this mind, we have this energy. It's like
no separation
yes.
from the mind and body.
Yes, and that's the big difference maker here was like, oh, okay, cool, we're going to address all these things. And there was all these curiosities, and it's like, oh, your blood work came back, and it's really good. Here's some stuff you should avoid. Here's a couple things you can tweak. You can always get a little bit better. It wasn't like, hey, this is an alarm bell, JT, or vitamin D's here. It's like, no, we have found that if you get it here, you might feel this, and you'll see these results. Give it a shot. Try these vitamins. You don't need to be taking these ones. Like, it took the guesswork out of a lot of things, and I think I first exit, second exit, I lost a little bit of weight, and I was already really lean, right? But like, I wasn't lean muscle, I was just skinny guy. And I looked back the other day, and I think 151 was as low as I was. I'm closer to 170 today. My body fat has actually gone down since coming to Stark, right?
Really inspirational.
So in 2 years, I've put on almost 20 pounds of lean mass. And it's like I said, I'm in this fun stage now where it's like, I enjoy to come here. I enjoy working out. Not every day when I'm in the car on the way, or sometimes I'm tired. I'm like, it's going to be a tough one today. But I really do like the act of exercising. I like it. I like weightlifting. I like challenging myself. I like the way I feel afterwards. I like the way I feel during it, right? Which is interesting. Sure. I think some people think that's like a little bit of a screw loose, but I like it. I like deadlifting. But I'm at this place where the optimization, to your point earlier, and that's a great word. It's like, I can try different things. I can say, okay, cool. For the next 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, I'm doing a different program in here, and I'm going to focus on this protein, and I'm going to try these things. I'm going to eat them. Maybe I, saw a thing on Instagram that I want to try out. I saw people drinking raw milk versus pasteurized milk, and I don't really drink dairy, but raw milk's easier on. Maybe I'll try that and see if the protein, if what they're saying might be true. And I can just play around with things and see how my body responds. And on this supplement or supplement of the month, I've been taking the ATP supplement for the last couple of weeks.
Oh,
I can feel it.
That's amazing.
Right?
That's
like I can
product,
feel it.
yeah.
And I think I'm
I've been
tuned
taking
in.
that for years.
I'm tuned in with my body to the point earlier of like this revelation of, oh, wow, when you eat something, you can actually just take a second and see how you feel afterwards. It's like all the actions that I take through the day. And when I'm really stressed at work, if I take it some time to breathe, all these things. But I learned so much of that here. And the mobility and understanding my body and getting some of these orthopedic things worked out. I was always scared of my knee, and Heather had me back squatting the other day, and we took a video of it, and I watched the video back, and my butt's almost touching the ground. I'm a guy I still have no ACL in my left knee, right? Wow. And my range of motion on a back squat, a heavy back squat, an over 200-pound back squat, is all the way down and all the way up with 3 seconds down and driving it back up. And I say that not to be like, I'm the man. It's like, I'm like, wow, seems impossible, right? But we worked through it. We got the hip aligned, which also affects the knee, like all these little things. And it's like that attention to detail you don't get anywhere else.
Well, you're not, at this stage, you're not in a rush either.
Yeah.
Like you are chipping away at it and being in love with the process and yourself, which generally is the answer.
Yeah.
The pursuit of some body transformational outcome in 3 months is horrific. That's a terrible idea.
Yeah.
You just show up consistently, you do the work. Maybe you're 80% right on and 20% not.
Yep.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So your head is in the right place. You're going to continue to get better and better over time, nice and slowly, which means you're going to retain it. It's kind of like making money. People that, win the lottery, the statistics around that are just disastrous.
They end up
young athletes young NFL football players that, make millions and then lose it by the time they're 35.
Yeah, they buy a jet.
Yeah. It's just
fly it around until
sort
it's
of
gone.
like health as well. When you accomplish things really quickly, you tend to lose them very quickly. I don't know if that's just human nature. You don't have an appreciation for it. You don't have an emotional connection to the process.
Yeah.
That's the important thing. Like, just be in love with how your feet feel on the turf when you're training. Little tiny things.
That big toe.
You can.
What you taught me. What you taught me.
That's going to train your booty.
My brain goes there in those squats. Going back to that exact exercise. I dig that big toe in. I dig that heel in. And I'm pushing on that big toe, and I feel it. I feel the mind-muscle connection. These are things I never felt before. I never had pecs. I could never flex my pecs till like years ago. I didn't know how to do it. I thought they were broken. Literally, I was like, people can flex. I don't know how to
Yeah.
flex my chest. They were like, what are you talking about? I was like, my brain, I can flex my bicep, I can flex my legs, I can squeeze my butt. But like, if you told me to squeeze my chest, I don't know how to do it. And I learned that over but to your point, it's this adaptation day over day. And some days are, you're feeling stronger than others. But it's, in the gym, they call it progressive overload, but like, it's the progressive overload of life. It's like chop wood, carry water. There's all these stories of like the women in Africa who carry the water on their head. And as they go on in life, they can carry more and more and more water until it's this thing that you're just like, this seems impossible, right? Or the guy carrying the stuff up the mountain. Like, it seems impossible, but it's like, it's not impossible. If it just gets a little bit, you add a little bit more, not even every day, maybe every week, you just add a little bit more. It's just like, I can grab one more now. I can grab one more now. I can grab one more now. And it goes on and on and on and on and on. I watched an Instagram video last night of some guy who lives on a cliff, and he gets up every morning and he climbs he's like 77 years old now, and he climbs this cliff up to open a church on top of the cliff, and he climbs back down and goes back into his house.
A long time. Yeah.
And he's just like, that's his daily thing. He doesn't, and he doesn't fall, and he doesn't feel like he's going to fall, and the focused energy on the thing. But, it's those repetitive, it's habits, and you get into the habit.
Exciting thing.
Yeah.
Exciting thing.
And that's why it's funny. You can look at my before and after picture and you go, oh my God, tell me everything. And it's like, I went to the gym on the way to work, and I made, ate a little bit better every day. And some days I'd slip, and then the next day I'd eat a little bit cleaner and drank a little bit more water and walked around a little bit more, got a little bit more sunlight, because you can fall into that trap too. And Huberman's good at explaining this stuff or whatever. And he'll be like, this is what we think you should do. And you're not going to do it all, but you can wake up on New Year's Eve and it's like, my New Year's resolutions are, I'm cold plunging every day. I'm sunning every day. I'm getting early morning light in my eyes every day. I'm walking 20,000 steps a day. I'm going to weight train 4 days a week. I'm never eating these 28 things and never going in my body. I'm on a plight to eliminate all seed oils, no matter what, everything. This like incredible optimization schedule. And you're like, how about just like, I'm going to be a little bit healthier tomorrow than I was today. I'm going to find a little bit more gratitude. I'm going to thank 3 more people today for things and mean it in earnest when I talk. And like, those are the things that'll change your life.
Yeah. My favorite New Year's resolution is I'm going to walk 500 more steps per day than I did the previous year, but for the rest of my life. Like, it's a tiny thing.
I love it.
It's all it is parking further away.
I love
at
that.
the grocery store.
Taking the steps and not the escalator.
Yeah, just like no valet.
Yeah.
You park a couple blocks away for everything that you do that day and for the rest of your life. And then you actually move the needle in your health.
It's so true.
It's just adding one little thing like that at a time. It's not exciting. It feels too slow.
Yep.
But it is exciting because it doesn't take a long time to start to experience the benefit of anything. It could be just drinking water like you did.
Yeah.
It could be going to the gym 1 time a month on average. And in the past, maybe it was 6 times a year.
Yeah.
Which is half of that.
Yeah.
You've got to think long term when it comes to health. You don't have to be perfect. You never will be. Chip away at it, do little tiny things and turn them into permanent habits. And they just sort of stack one on top of another. And you know how your attitude changes, right?
Yeah.
Your attitude about being able to accomplish things changed a lot. Like the things you're doing today in 2017, you would not be able to do.
No.
But a lot of years have gone by and you have accumulated great habits. And the most important thing is it's clear that you see the world in a different way and you definitely see yourself in a different way.
Yes, very much so. And it has made me a more compassionate person in general to others, a more patient person. And it's a work in progress, right? Like I said, it's a daily reprieve, and you can still wake up on the wrong side of the bed and get a case of the fuck it's.
Yeah.
And, and just be like,
that's a Thai word, right?
Yeah, exactly. And, I have these tools and it's like being a student, like a lifelong student. There's always more to learn. And no one, whether they want to say they do or not, like no one holds all the keys, right? We're always learning. We're always evolving. There's more things to know. I'm
assuming your level of connection with other people has changed as you've changed.
Yes, a lot.
Like maybe now as you're sort of peaking, hopefully you continue on an upswing.
Yeah. As
compared to 2017 or 2015 or in your earlier years.
Yeah, it was much harder to connect in a meaningful way when I was in a dark and desperate headspace.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like I said, a lot of my body felt wired like fight or flight. Like it was like wired for survival. Like I was on high alert a lot of the time. It's hard for me to have meaningful connection, for me to be able to sit down and like really talk to someone about something because there's so much I didn't want to share, which is like, hey, I'm out of control and I'm scared and I'm unwell.
Mm-hmm.
Those are hard things to say to someone, to come to someone and say, I need your help. I can't do this myself. I'm in a state of despair. That's a hard thing to do.
Hard thing.
For whatever reason. I think societally it shouldn't be that hard.
Well, I think the center of all this is love. I had a really interesting experience about a year, maybe it was 2 years ago. We went to a concert with a bunch of Stark people in San Diego. I think it was Odessa.
Yeah,
maybe.
cool.
And
That's
we all
fun.
drove down there. We had a great time. And as we were driving back, there were two separate cars. You know who Rolandis is, right? The guy that writes your programs. He was in a different car, and he was preaching to everybody in the car about how important it was to love yourself. And Todd's an expert at loving himself. And at first, I thought it was a little bit of a dig. It was kind of funny. We're very close, and I heard about it from other people, and I thought, well, maybe he's right. Let me do some research on what love actually is. I don't know that I know what it feels to love someone. I know what it feels to receive love, and through that research, it appears to be all the same, meaning the skill of love, whether it's to yourself or others, or a child or a father or a best friend, they all sort of overlap. They all have very similar characteristics. And so when you didn't love yourself, you could not love other people. But when you learn to kind of turn the corner and accept yourself and not be so perfect, not try to be so perfect, which is impossible, that was the point in time when you probably really got on the road to permanent change, because you respect and love yourself. And I think that's kind of the center of accomplishing anything permanent in our lives, especially when it comes to your health. You have to really love yourself, and it springs into other relationships, whether it's a spouse or children or parents or close friends. The dynamics of those relationships always change when you land in that position. I'm just grateful that he had that conversation, because I wasn't even nearly, I guess, fully aware of it.
Yeah.
But then in learning about it, I put more effort into becoming more of that. The fascinating thing about love is, unlike everything else that we do, when you give it away, you get more. Like you actually receive more than you give. So when I moved up to LA, as you know, when I walk around in the streets around here, because I walk everywhere, I try not to drive anywhere on purpose, as you know.
Yep.
When I pass someone on the sidewalk, I make eye contact with them. I say hi, no matter what. Some of them look down and they walk past me quickly. Others are kind of startled, because people just generally don't do that.
Yeah.
But it's for me.
Yep.
It's a selfish thing. Like
100%.
every time I do it, even if they look away like I'm some crazy, I don't know what they're thinking, I've found that more and more people, I'm getting better at it. More and more people like flinch and then look back at me and they say hi.
Yeah. Say it's a beautiful day, huh?
It's a beautiful day.
I'm completely on board with that. And I love that he saw that in you before you even maybe saw it himself.
Yeah,
which is a beautiful thing.
It's a beautiful thing. He's an amazing guy.
And love is, not to get too woo-woo and spiritual, and too AA or whatever, but like these programs, I'll say, it doesn't have to be just AA. They say a higher power, a God of your understanding.
This
right?
is a human thing. This is not an addict thing.
They say a God of your understanding. People have all this. Religion is religion, spirituality is spirituality. Religion's outside in, spirituality's inside out. Like, people have a hard time grasping this concept of God or spirituality or these things. And some people have an aversion to it because of a problem with the church or this or that. And there's a lot of people on earth, and there's a lot of opinions on earth and a lot of ways to think of things. But something that I've discovered over the years is like, it's pretty interesting. Like, God, whatever that is to you, teach their own. But God and love are kind of an interchangeable concept in that, okay, this is an undefinable thing that we don't really understand. Love, any definition of it in the dictionary is just a smattering of adjectives. Oh, an affinity for, an affection for, a longing, a yearning, of this. Do we really understand it? I don't really need to understand it to know that I need it. I want it. I want to give it away. I want to be able to give that to someone else. We're all chasing that all of the time.
Yeah.
And there's no real mystery there. That's not lost on people. If you ask them to define love, that might be lost on them. But like, what does it feel like to be loved, to be cared for, to be able to care for someone else? Like that action. And people be like, I get it. Just almost subconscious. It's human. To love is to be human, and to be loved is to be human.
I think it's the greatest expression of being human.
Yeah.
I mean, only humans can do it.
Yeah.
Right.
The more we love ourselves, the richer life feels, the experience of life, and the longer we want to be here.
Yeah.
So the more worth it is to be healthy and have longevity, right? Because you can experience that richness of life for a longer period of time. I want to be alive today. I couldn't always say that in the past. There were days I wanted to throw in the towel, and it was so dark. I was like, what's the point? Like, I'm just running uphill. This is exhausting. I can't do it anymore. I want to quit. I get up in the morning. I'm grateful to be alive because I flew pretty close to the sun for a while, Todd. I wasn't very well, right? Anything could have happened to me in that moment. And today I get up and I'm like, one, I'm grateful to be here. That first breath is a good one. My dad used to say any day above dirt's a good day. And the more I feel better and the more I love myself and those around me, the more I love life. And I want my life to be long.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's an interesting web.
You can't really parse out the pieces. They're all intertwined. I mean, just to bring it back for our audience, the more you love yourself, and you truly love yourself and you can forgive yourself, not only do you affect others differently, but you'll also more likely get abs and a nice round booty. Like those are, they are, if you understand how the body works, you can't really get there. I mean, you can get there temporarily with drugs. Yeah. Bodybuilders do those. Many bodybuilders are doing what they do because they don't love themselves.
Exactly.
But they're doing it unnaturally. They're tagging it. They're losing it. They're causing other problems. If you really want exceptional body composition, and that's how you're thinking today, looking inside and understanding how you really truly feel about yourself and getting into the practice of loving yourself, which is just a decision.
Yeah.
Maybe it takes a decade to make the final decision. That's really at the core of enabling yourself to do the really boring things that lead to the outcomes that you want.
Yeah.
Right?
Which it's almost like the abs and the big round booty are a side effect of finding peace,
they're not
serenity, and love.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, and it's great. But you've taught me that big round booty and the stronger the glutes, there's myriad effects to having that posterior chain being very strong too.
Absolutely.
It makes you feel better. It's better. And so
it's the absence of back pain and the presence of youth. It's feeling youth.
It's incredible. Yeah. And so it's great. I'm really grateful to you and to Stark and to everybody here and the team that you built, the community that you built. Right. I feel like a family member when I walk in here, and I know everybody, and part of that's me being really vulnerable with them, but them also being open to being really vulnerable with me.
Yeah, you're definitely a great fit.
And it works in that sense. And I feel like I can talk about anything when I come in here, and I can work through things while I'm working out, and like to not have to keep that inside and to be like, oh, it's been a tough week, or my sleep's been off because I'm stressed about this, or this is happening in my life, or it's the anniversary of my dad's death, or all these things, right? Like the bubble up, just to be able to let your coach know that, to be able to let the doctors know that, and just say, oh, or I was sick last week, but I think I ran myself down with this. And while you're getting an IV, to be able to sit there and talk with Dr. Atlas, like she'll stand in there and talk to me for the whole time my IV's going on. We'll just have a really deep and meaningful conversation that feels like connection, the opposite of addiction. I'm not isolated in this room trying to do something for me. I'm part of a community that wants me to win.
Connection is the opposite of addiction.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
That knowledge bomb. I appreciate you, and you're an inspiration inside of our community. And I'm sure in all the communities that you have your feet in, you are as well. Thanks for sharing your story. It's an amazing story, and hopefully it's an inspiration for anybody that is where you were or somewhere in between, because it's more of an emotional journey. It's a psychological journey than a physical journey. Eventually, the physical part becomes a part of the journey, but it's not until you really get your arms around believing that you can and thinking that you're worthy of it, right? Having people around you that support you.
It's the truth. And don't be afraid to ask for help.
Yeah.
It's really hard to do. Any big, meaningful change is hard to come by completely on your own.
Yeah.
And I find that the more we can humble ourselves to ask for that help, the easier it is to take that journey.
I wish I learned that, 30 years ago.
Me too.
Young men, it's a problem with young men.
Yeah.
Now I've been broken enough times to recognize how imperfect I am and reach out for it. Yeah.
Which is a strength.
Yeah.
It's a strength.
It is a strength.
It's a strength to know that.
Being full of fear and expressing it is a strength.
Strength.
That's what courage is all about.
Yeah.
Fearful and doing it anyway. Well, John, this has been amazing.
Thank you, Todd. I appreciate it
so much. If people listening want to find you, it's mostly people in the Star community that listen.
Yeah.
Where can they?
Well, my Instagram is at John Lloyd Taylor, JohnLloydTaylor. That's probably the easiest place to find me, and that's where I'm most active, is on Instagram. And if you need help and you want to talk about anything I talked about, my DMs and my phone are on, and I want my hand to be there when someone reaches out. That's part of my
That's
creed.
generous.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thanks, Todd. Appreciate you.
it's awesome.